Hello, and welcome to Sarah Speaks, Fashion and Mental Health. This event is in conjunction with my virtual exhibition called Death Over Time Part 2. This talk is going to be with Chantay Watson, a model I previously worked with in September. I will give her a fantastic introduction in a second. I'll just introduce myself first. So I am a fashion designer based in Carnaby, London. My brand raises awareness of social issues. I'm also a mental health activist and campaigner in my spare time. I volunteer for Time to Change, who's funded this event tonight. And I'm also a public speaker through the Speakers Collective. I do public speaking on a broad range of mental health topics. And naturally, this feeds into my brand's ethos and missions. So I'm also a Time to Change Kingston champion. So we are doing this in collaboration with them. Time to Change is a mental health campaign based in England with the objective of reducing mental health related stigma and discrimination. I'm part of the Time to Change Kingston Hub, where we campaign, well, before COVID, we would regularly campaign into the public. And since COVID's happened, we've taken a lot of it online, which has come with its challenges, but I think we're doing very well as well. We're reaching a lot of people, and yes, it's all very positive. So Persephone has just been putting in information about Time to Change in the chat. If you'd like to follow up that after the talk. They're a fantastic campaign. They've given me the confidence to begin speaking about my own mental health experiences. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, so my contact details are in there as well if you'd like to contact me afterwards. And we'll also be putting Chantay's contacts in there as well. So just to start off with a general health warning, we will be talking about serious and sensitive subjects today. And as we don't know your mental health background or how you're feeling today, we need you to know that we are going to be as open and honest as possible. So that means that we need you to be very aware of how you're feeling right now. And we need you to pay attention to how you're feeling and your vulnerability. So if you start to feel anxious or distressed by what you hear, then please do take yourself out of the talk, have a bit of a breather, and then you're welcome to rejoin at any time. We will also be adding signposting into the chat should you feel you need to talk to someone. So just to reiterate, this talk is going to be recorded. So again, just keep yourselves on mute, and if you don't want to be potentially in the recording, then please take yourself off video. Okay, so welcome Chantay. Chantay Watson is a London-based model whose modelling career first began in July 2019. So I sent an email yesterday, just again introducing Chantay, and there was a date wrong. I think I had put August 2020, but it's actually in 2019, in July. So since then, she has been focusing on developing her expertise in the industry she has always envisioned being in. She has had the pleasure of working alongside incredible creatives at fashion shows, exhibitions, and photo shoots. When she's not modeling, Chantay teaches young children with special needs. And although both jobs do come with their own challenges, she enjoys them both very much. Now, I met Chantay back in September 2020, where I was showcasing some new garments from my brand, highlighting mental health and sexual violence. This presentation that Chantay was included in took place at Never Fade Factory in Soho, London. I was instantly warmed by Chantay as I realised quickly that we both had a mutual passion for talking about mental health. it felt really good knowing someone was wearing my garments and modeling them who understood my brand's ethos and mission to open up the conversation on what can be challenging and difficult subjects. So yeah, hello Chantay, do you want to unmute yourself? So happy to have you here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited to have this chat with you.
Wonderful. I'm excited to have you on. Since the moment I met you, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be talking more about mental health with you. So I'm really glad that this has finally happened. So I'm going to start with the questions. So there's no denying some areas within the fashion industry are notorious for its fast pace and pressures, and also cutthroat atmosphere. As a model in the industry, what kind of pressures have you experienced?
I think for me, there's been two. So one has been pressure to maintain my weight, because I think with a lot of people, there's always an assumption about models and their weight. And I think I felt the pressure to stick within a certain dress size, if that makes sense. And I feel like I've somewhat become a bit more mindful of it, but at the same time, I try not to be. And also, it's just been pressure to kind of come across like everything's okay and things like that in terms of like mental health wise. So, kind of feeling the pressure not to disclose certain information just in case it might jeopardize my chances at getting something, an opportunity.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, I've heard a lot of some other models that I've worked with said that they feel the need to constantly stay within like a weight. Yeah, do you still feel like this? Was this just at the beginning?
Do you know what? In the beginning, it wasn't really something that I thought about too much, because I've always been like slim and my weight always fluctuates. But I noticed that leading up to Christmas, my weight was changing, like my body was changing. And I think I found it very hard to kind of come to terms with that, because I kept thinking, if I come out of the 8 to 10 dress size range, in my mind, I saw it as no one's going to want to work with me. Like, I'm not going to be someone that someone's going to see and be like, yes. So I think it's kind of trying not to let myself think negatively in that aspect, because like our bodies change all the time. And it's just kind of trying not to allow myself to feel that pressure. But I think, yeah, it's recently leading up to Christmas and after, I have become a lot more mindful of it.
I'm sorry that that's become more mindful. I mean, I think everybody that everybody everyone has is beautiful, and it shouldn't models shouldn't feel like they have to be stuck in that size range. But I completely understand why you'd think that, because it's just been the thing for so many years. But for some people it's just not, like, some people are slim like yourself, but there's also people who aren't naturally slim, but what healthy is for them might not be healthy for everyone else. So I think it's just making sure that we are kind to our bodies, and not not trying to change it to an extent where it's so unhealthy, like it's because it can be a very dark and easy spiral to go down. I have seen with designers where a lot of people are taking on models that are on various sizes, because the average person and the ordinary woman isn't this stick thin person. So we should advocate that anyone can be wearing fashionable clothing in any size. So I just think it's so important, and I hope that a lot of designers will like carry on accepting having models work for them that are of all sizes, because I do see that happening, but I think it needs to happen more. So going on from that, do you think people in fashion are open to talking about mental health? Like, have you ever had an experience where you've spoken about mental health to someone?
I haven't actually spoken to anyone in like the fashion industry about it. I do feel like it is a subject that people don't want to talk about, and I think that could also be because like models might be worried about, for example, booking agents finding out that they do have a history of depression or anxiety, and it can make you feel like people will make an assumption that you can't cope, that you're not built for the job. And I think that it helps when models and people in the industry talk about it, because then it shines a light on the fact that it's real, mental health is real, and people are dealing with it. But I think a lot of people are blindsided by the lifestyle of it. Like they see the good side of it, but then they don't realize that behind it all, like real things are happening and like they are real people. So I don't feel like it's spoken about enough, but it does help when people do talk about it to just raise awareness.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I agree. Like I do think some people are talking about it, but it seems to come in like drips and drabs, you know, like um suddenly lots of people will be talking about it and then no one talks about mental health for months, you know, on often on time. And I think if it's like a regular conversation that, you know, people are having, then it's becomes easier to talk about it. You know, we've become to normalize just saying if we're not feeling well. Yeah, I completely agree. I hope that by doing these kind of talks, people will talk about it more, because it's just so common, isn't it? Like there are a lot of people suffering, and by opening up, by seeing people open up and talking, then, you know, hopefully it will help people who are struggling in silence to reach out for help, because just getting past that first initial step is just so hard. Um, yeah. Would you feel comfortable to discuss your mental health to an employer?
Do you know what the thing is? I don't feel, to be honest with you, in all the times that I have like worked, I've never disclosed it, and it's simply because I don't feel like I could. And it has been difficult because I remember I used to work in one of the busiest places in London, and back then my anxiety was really bad. So whenever I'd like get off the train to go to work and stuff like that, I would always, I remember I could never like look people directly in their eyes. Like I would always walk with my head down because there'd be so many people walking towards me and I just feel really anxious. And there'll be times where I would be at work and I could feel like an anxiety attack coming along. And I'd just go in the toilet, I'll just talk to myself and just be like, come on, Chantay, like you're fine, you've got this. Then I remember I'll just unlock the door and I'll just carry on working. And when I think about that, I think I should never have I should never have had to have done that. And I feel like more people should promote it in the workplace. They should make people feel like they can talk about it. And I think the application process, regardless of what I'm applying for, I don't know if anyone else like they have this as well, but it's like my stomach almost sinks as soon as it gets to the part where it will ask you questions like, do you have a history of this or that? It's like, do I disclose it and possibly risk the chances of them not hiring me? Or do I just like withhold that information and just hope that there wouldn't be a reason to? So I think whenever I see that that part isn't mentioned, it's like a relief, because it's like, okay, I'm not lying to them because they haven't asked me. But I think I've never felt comfortable doing it, but I feel like we should feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, you can't not hire someone because they have a history of like depression or anxiety or anything like that. So yeah, it would be nice to not have to experience that feeling of like, oh great, I'm definitely not going to be hired now if I tell them this.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, going back on the first bit that you said about like going through the job whilst like in a panic attack, but also like calming yourself down in the toilet, like it's amazing that like you still went through it, you know, like it shows like the inner strength that you've got. But I agree, like I don't think I don't think you should have been able to go through it without, like, you know, potentially telling them, or like, you know, worrying about it. You know, it's like, it's so hard, especially when you're in that panic state.
Yeah,
It's not, it's just hard to even think like rationally, isn't it? Let alone um you know, having to carry on with the job as if like nothing had happened.
yeah.
um it's it's just so hard to do that.
Yeah, it can
I
be really exhausting as well when you're constantly having to pretend that you're okay, like nothing's happening. And I think I put pressure on myself as well because I kept thinking, we get told all the time to leave your problems at home. So when you go into work now, it's like, okay, I don't want to bring my problems with me. So I think that kind of made it worse because I'm just pretending that everything's fine, but I know it's not. And it would have helped if I had been made to feel like I could just go to the manager or someone to just sit down and talk with them, but I just didn't feel like I could ever do that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I think if we were able to go and talk to like a manager about it, in a way it's like a slight weight has been lifted, and if anything, it might even help your productivity better because you've managed to verbally say it to someone, and they understand that, you know, maybe you're just not feeling okay, so you might, the job just might get done slightly different. But it's just like giving people like that space to breathe and just like say it, you know, it's just so important. And yeah, like, yeah, I just, yeah, I think this whole topic of like mental health in the workplace is very it's still very stigmatized in lots of areas. um and especially with like with sorry, with fashion and modeling. um you know, like you are essentially, like, you are your job, right? So you are like there and you are meant to be like showing certain emotions and using your body language. But that can be so hard if you're in the midst of a panic attack and you haven't even managed to, you're not able to say it to anyone. Like it's not like you're just doing something on the computer, although I mean obviously that's hard as well. But you know, like using your body when inside, you know, it's really struggling, it's very hard. um yeah, so I have another question for you. um so do you do you think that fashion can become a kinder industry to work in?
I do. I feel like it's possible if more people promoted it and more people kind of, I know how hard it is to, of course, speak about it, and it is a very sensitive subject. And I think that's why some people don't want to talk about it. But I think it's important that people understand that just because someone may have a mental health problem, it doesn't mean they're incapable. It doesn't make them weak either. So I think if there was a better understanding and people were willing to educate themselves on it so that it could help them kind of identify the signs and symptoms so that they could help someone if they might notice that they're not really themselves. I think a better understanding and support would definitely help because less people would feel like they have to kind of suppress all of these emotions and kind of hide the fact that they're really not okay. And it can be exhausting when you're constantly showing up and having to put on a mask and pretend that you're okay when you're not. So I think if people were made to feel like they can just let it all go and they can just express it, then it would help. It definitely would make it a friendlier, like nicer place.
I completely agree. I just, I think it's so important for, yeah, like people to have like education on it, and just, you know, compassion because, you know, telling people that, you know, you have like a mental health condition, or you know, you're or like maybe you have like a mental health symptom or something, like psychosis or self-harming, you know, that doesn't make you weak. Like, you saying it out loud makes you strong because you've got to a point where you're accepting it with yourself, and then you're also, you know, having the courage to speak up about it, to try and get help. Like I just don't think that makes you weak, but I completely understand why some people may think that, and then worry about saying it to then an employer because you don't want that to like jeopardize your work. But we just like first we just need to like eliminate like that kind of protocol. Like maybe there could be, I don't know, like I'm not a manager. Well, I mean, I don't like manage like a massive large team or anything. So I like to think that maybe people could be trained in mental health like a lot more, and just it's just like creating that space for them, isn't it really? Yeah, I don't know. It's just I really hope it can change. Like I think we are like moving towards a positive change. Do you think now I know you said that you haven't actually spoken to an employer about your mental health, but do you think like now you would be able to, or do you still think there is that like barrier?
I feel like there's always a barrier. Like it would be something that I would like to, because it would feel like a relief, so that I wouldn't have to. Because even when it comes to like sick days, like sometimes someone might say that they don't feel well, and sometimes it's not always a physical thing. It could be mentally that they just don't feel well. So I think being able to know that I work with people who understand that some days I'm not going to be my best, but they'll understand, it will help than having to constantly feel like I'm having to do do things despite the fact that I'm not great. And it will be nice to know that they understand and that I'm not being judged for it, and they're not going to look at me as someone that's not cut out for the job. So yeah, it would be nice, because I think there's always a fear that people will feel like I'm not good enough for the role. So yeah, it would help. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, because basically, your like a mental health condition isn't a reflection on you. It's, we all have good days and we all have bad days, right? And just because you've had a couple of bad days with your mental health condition doesn't mean that you're not cut out for the job. It doesn't mean that like, your productivity long term is a reflection on like how you'll deal with the job. Like we've got to like eliminate like um that problem, because it's just not true. And we're all allowed to have bad days, aren't we? We're human at the end of the day, aren't we?
Mm.
I think if there was something about letting the employer know that you're having a bad mental health day, and we got to normalize it, like as if if you're feeling sick physically, right, or if you've got like a really bad headache or something like that, then there's a chance that they'll understand and they might let you go home or something like that. So we need to normalize it to the extent where if we're having a mentally bad day, then it needs to be treated that same level.
Yeah, because it has been difficult, because I know in the past I'd get days where like it would be so difficult to even just get out of bed. And I would always think, okay, I can't call in sick because I'm going to let down everyone. Then everyone's going to think I'm unreliable. So it's putting pressure on myself to show up, even if like I just couldn't. And I think in all the time that I worked where I used to work, where I said it was one of the busiest places in London, I remember only taking one sick day off because I literally just couldn't go to work that day. And even though I should have been at home resting, I was stressing and I kept thinking, what they're going to say when I go in tomorrow? Like, what if they didn't believe me? And I just don't feel like people should have that pressure. Like, the same way as you said, if someone had a migraine or the bug, they'll be sent home or they'll be told not to come in. I think it should be normalized that if someone calls in and says, I just can't come into work today for whatever reason, it should still be accepted and they shouldn't be seen as they're slacking off.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. And yeah, adding that unnecessary pressure on yourself just it's not good, because it can then send you into a spiral of feeling even more unwell, and then harder, it can just really spiral out of control. And to be honest, I completely understand your like experience of when you were at home with and like from being off work, and you're like worried that people are gonna, well, like what they're gonna think and stuff like that. Because I've definitely been there as well, and it's really not a nice place to be, and it doesn't make you recover, or it's not a form of self-care. It's just but you know, if you've got anxiety, then like it's just gonna like manifest itself really. And then but yeah, it's just eliminating like that idea of that, you know, speaking up about your mental health doesn't make you weak. I think it would just be so useful for people, because I think it makes you strong. I really do. Like, you know, you can build like inner strength and resilience from, you know, like the challenges that people go through, and it makes you a lot more of a wholesome worldly person, you know. Yeah, well, we're actually got a lot of questions, so I don't know if you want to begin the Q&A. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
yeah, that's fine. We can start that. That's fine.
Okay, great. Wow, so there's quite a few. Okay, so Steve was the first up. So he asked, what support does Chantay go to when she needs it? How does she manage slash cope with her anxiety and the pressures of work and life?
I think with me, I've been so used to kind of learning how to pick myself up that it's kind of become a thing where, I don't know, I think it helps when I kind of understand that it's okay not to be okay. And I think sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to always be okay. And we might go, sometimes I find that I go through a stage where I feel good, I feel great. And then I might experience a day where I don't. And then I might be a bit disappointed in myself. But I think what helps me kind of carry on with like work and things like that is that I know I can get through it. And I think one of the things that I actually started doing was journaling as well. So I kind of see it as I'm talking to someone, even though no one's there. It's like it gives me a chance to kind of express how I'm feeling instead of suppressing it, because that's something that I always used to do. And it was because I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could talk to. So even if it's like typing it up or writing it or recording my own voice, it kind of felt like I was talking to someone. And it does feel better because it kind of makes me feel like, okay, I've let a bit of weight down and I'm not carrying it around with me. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did definitely. And I'm just gonna add on about the journaling. Like, oh my gosh, I started journaling in from the first lockdown we went into. At like that's the first time I journaled ever. And oh my gosh, it's honestly saved, like, yeah, not saved me, but like it's helped me so much. Like it's really just gets everything out of my head. It also makes me think rationally, which is very hard to do when you're thinking so irrationally in the panic states. It really like brings me back to like the present moment, and it does feel like I am talking to someone as well. You know, it is that element, especially if maybe you don't have anyone to talk to, which, you know, a lot of us don't. You know, not everyone has, you know, like big support systems in place. So finding alternatives like journaling is just so simple but so effective, and anyone can do it really. Like all you need is just like a pen or a pencil and a little bit of paper, or typing up like you said. Yeah, I just think that it's so fantastic. Yeah, so I'm a big advocate for that too. It's really glad to hear that you do that as well. I think it's really good for like anxiety, and lots of other things as well. So another question. Oh, question 3. What's question 2? Okay. Is there something you think that we as part of the fashion industry can do to try and end this mental issue we put the people inside the fashion industry and our own buyers through? So is there anything that you think that we could do to try and end, I guess like the stigmas and discrimination that everyone is going through?
I think definitely making it a topic that people can discuss. And I think in I know with agencies, they have headquarters and things like that, the offices. I think even having it around there in the workplace, posters or anything to kind of promote it, to make people feel like it's okay that we can. And I think also, I feel like more people need to do like well-being days, to kind of make people feel good, to know that it's something that is okay, to know that the company support it and things like that. So I think doing more that will encourage people to talk about it will definitely help, because I think not enough people do. So I think if companies and businesses and things like that would make it something that people will see, it will help.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, posters is a fantastic idea because, they can go up anywhere really. They can be super colorful and stuff like that and engaging. Just having maybe some statistics about mental health or, positive affirmations around just to start that open dialogue. It's just so powerful. And it shows that, the company is aware of it. They're wanting to tackle it and they're wanting to help. It's more than just a visual thing, isn't it? It's showing that this company genuinely wants to help and understand and stuff like that. And also I agree, having well-being days. I think some companies definitely do that, but I think it's once or twice a year. But it needs to be way more regular than that, doesn't it? It's not something that someone just may have once a day each year. It's it's an ongoing thing, so so it needs to be ongoing in terms of awareness and discussion. Chantay, have you ever had the need to reject a job offer that is affecting your mental health? That's quite a good question, actually.
Have I felt the need to because of my mental health?
Yeah. Have you ever felt the need to reject a job offer that is affecting your mental health?
It has made it difficult for me to take up opportunities, because there's always the fear that if they find out, or if they see certain things, they might reconsider, or they might not think I'm cut out for the job. So I feel like it's always something that holds me back all the time. And I always feel like I have to filter out parts of myself just so that I can come across as someone that is professional and can get the job done and things like that. So there's been loads of times, and I do beat myself up over it, because I shouldn't have to feel like I can't go for it because of that. And I think maybe that's just, I feel like I'm definitely more open to talk about it now than I was before. But at the same time, it's still a barrier when it comes to work and things like that. It's always at the back of my mind, do I disclose it, or do I just hold back? And it has been an issue. I wish it wasn't, but it is all the time.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't an issue as well. I completely agree, because it's stopping you from being your true authentic self if you're putting on a mask and pretending to be something that you're not, and that can really affect maybe potential experiences that you have in life. It's a really good question. I wish I had thought up that question. But I'm glad this person said it. Have you so another one for Chantay. Have you as a model compared yourself with other models? And if so, how have you dealt with it?
Well, I like to call this one the comparison game, and I play it all the time, but I'm not as bad as I used to be before. I feel like I don't know, I personally feel like it's normal for us to look at other people and kind of wish we had their hair or something like that. But I've learned that if you're going to be doing it, do it because you're looking for inspiration, not because you're comparing yourselves to them. So I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I always kind of felt like I wasn't good enough, and I'd always look at other models and wish I looked like them and wish I had what they had. But I have to keep reminding myself that our experiences are very different. And at the end of the day, like, I'm going through my own journey, and they may be in one stage of their life that I'm not at, but that doesn't mean that I can't get there. And it's just kind of, I think with me, that's why I sometimes have to take breaks from social media, because I find that sometimes I'm doing it constantly, and it becomes an issue for me, because I think all it does is kind of eats away at my self-esteem and like my confidence. And then I start doubting myself, feeling like I'm not good enough because I don't look like them. So yeah, it is something that I'm still working on. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. Thank you. I comparison game. Oh my gosh, it's deadly, isn't it? Very deadly. But I think like, sharing that you take social media breaks. I think it's so beneficial, isn't it, in the long run to do that. It's good that you're aware of it. I think like first step is becoming aware. Not everyone is aware of it. So yeah, just taking yourself away, because you are good enough, and you are incredible, and you're talented, and like you're succeeding in life. So, and like you said, every journey is different. It doesn't mean that one journey is better than the other. We're all on our own journeys, and when and we'll arrive at things at different points in our lives, and that's totally okay, and that's what's meant to happen for us. But yeah, social media, wow, yes, so hard to not compare yourself. So I think taking a break and just stepping out of it can really like bring clarity to yourself. So it's so lovely and refreshing to hear you do that. So there's a couple of comments as well, so I'll just say them as well before I get to the next questions. So Adriana commented saying, not a question but a comment. I just realized how us in the fashion industry think of models as vehicles for showing our products, instead of regular people like you and me who also fight with all kinds of issues like everyone else. That has to change.
I like that comment, because it shows that there is an understanding that we are real people who have real feelings. And that's why I mentioned earlier on that I think some people are blindsided by the lifestyle, and they forget that it is an excessively like stressful like industry to be in. There's a lot of pressure. So I think acknowledging the fact that, yeah, we are there to wear your designs and things like that, but at the same time we're people and we have feelings, and I feel like they should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree, actually. Yeah, because for years, models have been like treated as if like they're just objects and they're just in the corner and just showcasing people's clothes. But like you're like people like models are human, we all have feelings, we all have emotions, and we all have challenges and experiences. So yeah, I agree with that comment as well. And yeah, I agree, like people do get blindsided by the lifestyle. Yeah. So another comment, we have that policy in the company I work for. Either if it's a physical, mental, you take it off a sick, personal day. That's fantastic. So hopefully in the future, more companies will be applying this policy. I personally have a really close relationship with my manager team, so I don't think I would have an issue telling her. However, this policy is new for 2021, and I'm lucky not to have had to use it yet.
Good. That's good to hear, because it is important, and it would be reassuring to know that it is something that we can call up on and kind of say how we're feeling without the pressure of having to come in or letting anyone down. So, and it is also, I think, a lot of the time it's the fear. So you kind of just call up and say that maybe you've got a headache, and it's like not having to lie. And it would be nice to be able to just be honest. I know that they understand, they get it, there's no pressure, no one's judging you. Take a break when you feel better, come back, because it's important. And I think employees need to understand that you have people working for you, but how can you expect them to perform at their best if they're not feeling great? So I think it would help and would be very beneficial to everybody if everyone there was feeling good.
Completely agree, yeah. Just being honest and stuff like that will benefit the person's productivity in the long run. And yeah, by lying, like, saying, hey, you've got a headache or something, which is so much easier to say than, that you're having a bad mental health day, which is ridiculous because it shouldn't be like that, but it is, unfortunately. And by doing that, you're putting all this unnecessary negativity on yourself, which just spirals out of complete control. So yeah, because I'm a fashion designer, I have a very small team, and if anyone in my team was to feel unwell, like mentally, like, I totally give them a personal day off. I just think it's just so crucial. Like, mental health and physical health need to be on par with each other, and until then, we need to carry on fighting. Chantay, have you ever held yourself responsible for feeling the way you feel?
I feel like it's something I kind of do all the time, in terms of like, if I find myself kind of feeling really low in moods, I kind of like put pressure on myself to kind of snap out of it. And I think what has made that somewhat worse is, in the past, I remember when I did occasionally open up to people, it's always, you're just complaining, or there's people who have it worse. So being told that, it kind of makes me feel like, okay, I have no right to feel like that. I need to just do what I need to do. So even recently, I've kind of noticed there's been a shift in how I'm feeling. And it was only until a few days ago I sat down and realized, have I been avoiding it because I feel like I don't have the right to feel this way, because there's people who have it worse. I'm still working, which is something that I'm so grateful for. So why do I feel like this? So I think sometimes I do blame myself, but then sometimes I'm also like, do you know what? It's okay to not feel great today. Like, it's fine. If you wake up today and you don't feel like doing anything, then that's fine. It's not going to make you lazy. It doesn't mean that you're just, So I think it's difficult. Sometimes I'm better at kind of talking myself out of that negative state of mind of, you have no right. But then other times it does kind of get to me, and I feel like I have to be constantly doing something. But then I think because of the first lockdown, because I learned so many things that helped me, I'm more mindful of it, of acknowledging the fact that I might not be okay, because I don't want to feel myself going back into that burnt out stage of just feeling drained. So yeah, it is easier now, but I still find I get days where I am putting pressure on myself and blaming myself for feeling the way that I do. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I definitely think it did.
Okay.
Chantay, can you give an example of what makes you feel uncomfortable at work?
Wait. Okay. If it's to do with modeling, it's always when I don't know what I'm going to wear. And the reason why I say that is because obviously there's things about me that people won't know until they meet me. Because I've had, when I was talking about the application process, when there's questions that if they don't ask me, I don't have to disclose it. But for example, whenever I do go to like a shoot or something, I always pray that I'm going to be in a long sleeve, because I feel like that would put my mind at rest. And that, because obviously I do have scars, and I worry that if people on set will see it, they're going to think like she's crazy or she's not cut out for the job. So I think for me, it's the, yeah. So I think it's just that's always my worry. It's always like, when it comes to getting changed and things like that, people seeing, it's always just, and I don't want to come across as like shy, because people assume that because you do modeling you must be the most confident person ever. So I'm like, okay, well, everyone else is doing it, like everyone else is getting changed, so just do what you're doing, trying to kind of cover it and things like that. But obviously when I'm in front of the camera now and I can't cover, so if it's being seen, I do feel like the anxiety like building up, because then I start to panic, like what they're going to think when I go home. Are they going to discuss it with someone and tell them like, okay, she's got this, we don't want to book her? So I think, and also because if I haven't disclosed it and then they see it, I feel like I've kind of set myself up, and then I blame myself, or like, well, you should have told them.
Yeah, that's really hard. Yeah.
That's just something I always worry about. But yeah, it's a difficult one. And then I think sometimes I kind of blame myself, because it's like, well, what do you expect? So yeah.
Our brain feeds off of negativity, doesn't it? So much more than positivity.
Yeah.
But you should never blame yourself. Like, it's like, yeah, having scars on bodies is beautiful. But yeah, I completely understand the worry that, you know, people's reactions will have, or if they're like talk about it and stuff like that, because I have scars as well. So I would go to like great lengths to like hide it and stuff and want long sleeves, but it just sounds like for you that there's just so much like pressure that like you're putting on yourself. And I wonder if this is what a lot of models go through, you know, before even like walking through that door, you just put like a mountain of pressure on yourself, and it just shouldn't be like that, you know, like people don't deserve that, you know. It's meant to be like a fun and enjoyable experience, you know. So I really hope that that will change. I feel positive that it will.
Yeah, it would be nice to know that it has, because it just would be nice to feel like in that industry you're just accepted regardless of your flaws and anything like that. It just would be nice to not feel like you can't just be who you want, just be who you are, and not have to hide parts of yourself just to come across as someone that others will accept.
Exactly, yeah. I completely agree. Like, being your true authentic self is incredible, you know, and you just don't know what kind of like things you can unlock with that. What things can develop for yourself. I think a lot of people don't feel like they can be their true authentic self in life. And you know, I worry that it puts up barriers for them, more them putting up barriers themselves, you know, around. Yeah. Steve made a good comment. So in the UK, musicians have an organisation that supports them. I do feel there is a space for something in fashion. Now I know what he's talking about, because I've seen that online, where it's I can't remember the name of the company, but I'm guessing he means for mental health support, because I know there's something for musicians, where there's this website that they can go to and they can acquire support, maybe like counseling or advice and stuff like that around mental health and well-being and stuff like that. I agree. I think there should be a space for this in fashion. Like, it should be set like everywhere for everyone. Yeah. What do you think of that comment?
Yeah, I do think it is really good that something like that has been put in place, and I do think it should be put in place in other aspects as well, because it's always nice to know that there's somewhere that you can go if you are experiencing anything, and you just don't. I think it's just really good to know that you don't have to keep it to yourself. And I know it can be hard enough as it is to go to someone to tell them how you're feeling. So I think at least being given the option, it shows that they care and that they are aware, and they're acknowledging the fact that it is a tough industry to be in, but their support is there if needed.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Sorry, I've missed off a question. I didn't see that. Would working with other companies in the future to have these mental health orientated discussions in the workplace help make the change?
Sorry, what was the question?
Would working with other companies in the future, who have mental health orientated discussions, help make the change?
I definitely think it will, because it will be good to know that if they are, I feel like with some companies, they kind of like to do like if they see that one company is doing something and it's getting really positive views and things like that, it can encourage other companies to do the same thing. So I think if having those discussions is made more open, it can encourage more people. So more companies will be promoting it, more companies will be talking about it, and it will slowly eliminate the negative aspects of mental health, and people will, instead of judging someone for it, more people should be praised for speaking up on it and things like that, and to be made to feel good about it, because it's hard enough to have to talk about it. So it would help to know that the companies have our back and we know that they support it, and I think it will just create a much more positive environment for everyone to work.
I completely agree. Okay, so we've got 2 minutes left. So I just want to ask a final question just to round it all up. Do you, Chantay, have any recommendations to share for keeping mentally well in lockdown? Now, I know you mentioned about like the journaling and stuff, but I was just wondering if there's anything that you've suddenly put in place for, for lockdown, basically.
Yeah, so journaling was one thing. Reading was also something that really, really helped. So it kind of helped put things into perspective. So reading self-help books and motivational books, but also meditating. I started meditating during the first lockdown, and it does help in terms of whenever I feel myself feeling really anxious or tense, it does help to relax me. Also, yeah, so journaling, reading and meditating definitely helped. Yeah, I think they were the main things that really helped me, because it kind of made me feel like if I do find myself going into a place that I don't like, I have methods that can kind of help me feel a bit better. And I know sometimes it can be difficult because you may not feel you might not you won't be able, sometimes you just don't want to, but it's always good to have these things that you can go to if you need to kind of give yourself a boost.
Completely agree. Yeah, finding the right tools that fit for you is just so powerful. Yeah, I mean, some people will have mental health conditions for the rest of their life, but once people find the right tools that work for them, and the tools that work for me may not work for you, but it's knowing that, and knowing that's okay, and knowing that it's okay to go through a few to find the right one. But once you find the right one that really works for you and helps your mental health on a daily basis, it's just so beneficial. So yeah, that's a wonderful thing to end on. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Chantay, for coming on and talking. I think it's been extremely powerful. Maybe we could all just unmute ourselves and clap for Chantay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chantay.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, it's not a problem. I hope we can do this again in the future.
Definitely, yeah.
So just before everyone goes, I just want to say that there are going to be more guest speakers coming on for my series of Sarah Speaks Mental Health in Fashion. The next talk will be this Friday at 6 p.m. And that will be with model, social activist and human rights advocate called Rosie Mininko. So she'll be joining us Friday at 6 p.m. Like I said, I will be sending emails out to people just to let you know. And if you want to join us, that would be fantastic. Would love to see everyone there again. And yeah, if you want to check out the virtual exhibition, that's on for another 2 weeks. And it's free. It's very interactive and immersive. You can walk around yourself, discover the garments, and they all raise awareness of mental health conditions. So Persephone's just put the link in into the chat. And also we're always looking for more volunteers for Time to Change to become a champion. If you'd like to get involved or find out a little bit more about it, Persephone has put information in the chat. We're always looking for new people that want to talk about their mental health experiences. It's just so powerful. And again, if anything has upset you during this conversation and you need support, please do call the Samaritans or text Shout. We've posted this information in the chat. And yeah, just make sure everyone looks after themselves, and hopefully see you guys on Friday. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to everyone that's watching. Thank you.